The past is gone. There is nothing that can be done about it now. All you can do is move on, really. When it comes down to it, think about it. What good does dwelling on past, whether that be past mistakes or if the past was better than it is now, nothing good comes out of it, you know? And I think it's very interesting because a lot of people, me included, have a tendency to, you know, look at the past with rose-tinted glasses. Think about how good it was and how little responsibilities you had, or like, you know, how much better it was back then. And I'll give you an example here. When I was even now, I long for like early high school, late elementary, just because that was right before I felt real responsibilities, and before I had jobs, and I still had like a core group of friends that got along really well, and no one was moving away yet, and so, all that stuff, right? And so obviously I'm gonna look at it as a positive. All these things are great, and I want to go back to this time. But I'm also forgetting that I wasn't very happy at that point. I was eager to move on, to, you know, get going with my life. I felt stuck, for lack of a better term. And I remember that feeling, and it was an awful feeling. And it was more or less just trying to survive until I got to high school, you know, or I got to the next year. And that's one of the things I wanted to touch on is, no matter what, you had issues. Sorry, that sounds a bit weird. Either, no matter what time it is, you had problems that you had to deal with. And now those problems may seem small, like it may seem like they're insignificant, but at that point in time, they were huge. They were huge to you because you didn't have the experience you have now. You didn't have anything you have now, you know? And so when I find myself daydreaming about the past, I find it very useful to remind myself of that. That, you know, I had these problems, or these things frustrated me, and now they don't, you know? I remember wanting to drive. I can drive now. And, you know, there's times where I'm like, oh man, I gotta drive into town twice today, and I'm grumbling about it. But, you know, like 10 years ago, I would have loved to drive. That was awesome. I was playing video games and driving. You know, it was such a big deal to me. And so it's all about how you frame it. I know living in the past is such an easy trap to fall into. And there's one song by Joji called "The Past Won't Leave My Bed." And that is incredibly relatable, because my interpretation is just how he tries to, you know, move on and tries to get going with his life. But every time he gets quiet and he goes to sleep, or he tries to wake up, he's reminded of the past again in those quiet moments. I thought that was really, really soothing. And I listened to that, and that's when I started to analyze myself and think about why I related. The thing that I struggle with is when I have a problem. Like, let's just use this as an example. When I have a problem like this, and there is no solution. A lot of personal issues, there are no solutions. And, you know, you have to kind of search within yourself to find that solution. And so let's break this down a little bit here. So the problem is that I'm living in the past too much. I'm too in my head. And, a lot of past relationships and friendships I long for. Okay. So, what's the problem with doing that? Okay. So, I think that's another thing you got to look at is what you're doing like bad to you. So, in this case, living in the past, I'd say it's negative. And the main way, I don't want to say fix it, because you don't fix it. You learn to live with it, is to appreciate the moment. You can't change the past, you can't predict the future. The only thing you can change is right now. And I know that sounds a bit corny. It sounds like one of those Facebook quotes, but it's true. It's one of those things where look at what you have control over and go from there. Because there's no point in wasting time and energy worrying about something you have no control over, or even thinking about something you have no control over. You can't control what happened before. You can only, change what's going to happen. And I want to make that clear with mistakes too. If you're dwelling on the past because of some past mistakes, it's okay to let it go. You can forgive yourself. I know it's easy to be hard on yourself and beat yourself up because of something, but the fact is, you change. I want to tell you guys a little story. It's a fable. So, there's a man and a monk. And the monk is sitting in a town square meditating. And the man comes by and he kicks the monk. And the monk doesn't say anything. And the man goes along his way. Doesn't say anything, it's just rude. Just a rude guy. Now, about an hour later, the man comes back looking quite sheepish. And he says to the monk, he's like, "Look, dude, I'm sorry. I just didn't understand your culture, and I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't cool of me. And, I'm sorry. Will you forgive me?" The monk looks at him, and he says, "No, I will not forgive you." The man was taken aback. He thought, like he came here and apologized. He thought he had the forgiveness, but the monk wasn't finished. The monk goes, "I will not forgive you because that man who kicked me is not the same man who stands in front of me right now." Now just let that sit for a second. The idea of it is you're always changing. You're never the same person. And I stand by that idea that, I wasn't the same person as yesterday. I'm changing. You are changing. There's an Adventure Time quote talking about, I don't know exactly, but it's something about the fact that the only constant is change, and there's no point in trying to avoid it, because it just makes it worse. But as long as you know the shape of your soul, you'll be okay. And that resonated with me. So I know I'm kind of all over the place here, but my point being, the past is the past. Okay? I know it's a hard concept to come to grips with, but sometimes you gotta just keep moving on. Just keep showing up and stay in the present. Don't let yourself get dragged to the future or the past. Don't let anxiety and depression change where you are. Stay right here in this moment. And if you are struggling with past mistakes, it's okay, because as long as you're doing better, as long as you're making an effort to improve, that's all that matters. Now, I want to leave you with one last quote. I know I did a lot of quotes and a lot of stories today, but that's what resonates with me most. That's what I relate to most. This one's from Naruto. I use this for my grade 8 quote, so I think it's kind of suitable considering the stories I was telling. And it goes, it's not about being the best. It's about being better than you were yesterday. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind next time you're beating yourself up about something that you've done or something that happened. Just remember that. That's the one takeaway of this video. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for everything you do for me. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope nothing but the best for you guys. All right. So take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.